For more than 30 years, Robert Edward Auctions has been the nation's premier auction house, specializing in sports memorabilia and trading cards. With significant experience and expertise in all major sport, non-sport, and Americana collectibles, REA has helped clients achieve record-breaking prices for their items and has done so with a reputation for integrity and transparency. By actively partnering with collectors and enthusiasts throughout the entire process, REA has created the hobby's most trusted forum for selling high-quality collectibles. Go to robertedwardauctions.com for more information on how to buy or sell in their next auction.
I'm Danny Black.
And I'm John Newman.
Welcome to Card Mentions.
It is Danny Black. I'm John Black. John Newman. I'm wearing black, though.
I need to interrupt. There was some behind-the-scenes engineering genius that was just pulled off for the first time in like 4 months.
Yeah, I know. But that's what we're supposed to do.
You're taking away my glory. I got it right. All right.
Not what, but you can't call it. You can't like talk like right after it. Like it's too obvious. But yeah, sometimes we don't get that intro right. I'll say we. I'll say we, but I'll take one for the team. No, that time you did get it right. If the Emmy, I just got a text in the corner of my screen. Tell Danny Emmy will be mailed to him in the next 2 to 4 weeks. If you act now and pay one additional shipping and handling, you'll get an extra Emmy as well. So there you go.
Does it say anything about me being Chris Rock or you being Will Smith or vice versa? Or
no,
right.
I'm or Jada Pinkett.
All right, weren't you starting the show?
Yeah. All right. This is episode 24. The Kobe Bryant. I guess last week was the Michael Jordan episode. We'll call this the Kobe Bryant one. If you win, what are we going to talk about? A little bit of a Debbie Downer, but not really. In a fun sort of way. Is in our opinion, we each picked 5 cards. We always kind of skirt the rules. You'll see what we're talking about. But 5 cards that, in our mind, are overrated. And I want to just say, Danny, for my picks, I'm not saying I don't want to own these cards or they're great cards or I already do own them in some cases. I'm just saying in hobby space, they're a little bit overrated. They're given almost a little bit too much love. Or, obviously when we make our picks, we'll give our reasons why we selected each card in that case. But I want to preface it always the small print, right? A little disclaimer. I some of these cards are on my list to own, and some of them I already own. And there are in-demand cards. They are notable cards. They're not going to be any like dark horse. Everyone will know every card on both of our lists and just why we think they're overrated. And we might have some of the same cards, but have different reasons why they made even both of our lists.
I would say we're picking the cards who are the kid in high school that needs to be punched in the face. They're just a little too cocky of a card. That's how I felt. Like they just need to be brought down to their level a little bit. So that's how I looked at it. Nothing personal. Just just got to be readjusted. It's like they say the hobby is not in a downturn. It's just readjusting. It just some of these cards need an emotional readjustment in the hobby's eyes. That's how I look at it.
And the only other thing I want to add really before we get started is if you're watching the World Series and not this right now, shame on you.
But there will be updates, so you won't miss anything. You can stay with us.
Yeah, we will get. Well, I won't. I don't have it on for reasons I told Danny. It'd be too distracting. He's better at that than I am. So the updates will be coming from Baltimore and Danny Black, sideline reporter.
We're still here, 3-2, John, in the third inning.
Or you could do what Eric Dickerson might do if he was still on the sideline and say something like,
Eric, I'm throwing it to you. What do the coaches say for the second half?
well, Danny, I think whoever scores the most runs tonight's probably going to win the ball game. Back to you up there.
Thank you, Eric.
He was the greatest. What was it? 1 year on Monday Night Football, but I think that was one of my favorite. What have you found out at halftime, Eric? And then he said, "Well, it was Al Michaels." So he's like, "Al, I think whoever scores the most points is going to win this football game." Back to you. And I remember Al Michaels like just deadpan reply, "Thanks, ED."
I don't want to give away anything, but boy, are you pissing off somebody's family tonight.
Yeah, you might even see that card.
I was about to say the Dickersons might take you off the Hanukkah list. See what yeah.
Listen, as long as they keep me on the Christmas one, I'm out 1 out of 2 ain't bad.
Right, just as long as the check
500.
I'm fine. So,
right,
anyway,
well,
hello Mookie, hello Orlando. And we are at 3-2, bottom of the third, so you won't miss anything sticking with us. But who's going first?
I'm gonna acquiesce to you. I did the open. You nailed the intro and all that fun stuff. So go ahead, lead us off with your. These are I don't know if you're gonna do them in any kind of order. I'm just gonna do them in random order. So go whoever the one you want to go with first.
Mine's definitely going to be random order. And I hope we're talking good cigars. You got a couple fans up here if we got good Cubanos.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. You hear both of us. So I'm gonna start with something I think is going to be an unpopular choice, but let's just get it out of the way. You've already knocked it. The Jeter SP rookie. I'm sorry. I don't get it. It's a weird card from a weird set. The look on his face looks like the 58 Brooks Robinson. Okay. Nobody ever talks about that. It's just not a great card. He's got a bunch of rookies. The population on it is not even that limited. I mean, you're talking about graded PSA alone. It's 10,000 of them. I think the player's overrated. I think the card's overrated. I think the hobby was desperate to have a key card from that period of time. And outside of the 89 Griffey, and there might be some similarities there we'll talk about later, but I think the hobby is overreaching for star cards coming out of the wax era.
I'm not going to argue this one too much. Listen, I'm the guy who sold 150 of these, not graded ones, but raw ones between the years of 1993 when it was released in 94, maybe a little bit into 95. I just thought at the time, being in New York and having my card store, I just thought, pretty boy, good looking guy, Yankee shortstop. Even if he has a good career, he's going to be overhyped because of all those other it factors, the looks, the playboy looks in the starting shortstop of the Yankees. So I was selling them left and right. I thought, I'll get out while the getting's good. Obviously, 30 years later, probably not the greatest. I didn't lose money, but probably should have not sold all of them that fast or had some of those graded. But yeah, there's no shortage of the card.
Mookie, I don't know what you're talking about.
You know what? I like Mookie's comment here because I kind of when you were off on your Jeter tirade, I'm like, this sounds like an Orioles fan or a Red Sox fan. And then I said, yeah, he is an Orioles fan. So it makes
there are 10,000 PSA 8s alone.
I know, I get it. I'm not arguing that it's a short print. I don't think anyone could make that legitimate argument. And yeah, you see it, you do see them. They're prevalent. I'm not disagreeing with you. I just don't feel as strongly about it as you. I think if you would have asked me in '94 or even '95, right, I would have agreed with you more then. But now, all these years later, and the World Series rings, he's the captain. He's still on TV. He's still doing He's still in the forefront of American sports and American sports business. I I don't disagree, or I don't agree with you as much. I don't disagree either. I'm just sort of like I let this one go. I'm not gonna lie and say it didn't make my 10 or 20, and then I narrowed it down to 5 picks.
Brendan Ryan
Yeah.
has a great point here, John. I don't know if you can read this.
Oh yeah, I can see it. Am I blind today?
Sure, I know
what,
it's
Miss,
small print.
what, what am
You're an
I,
old
Mr.
man.
Magoo?
You're an old
Daddy,
man.
what? Is this some kind of podcast?
I agree with Brendan. Yeah.
Good evening, gentlemen. Too bad Jeter wasn't a rookie in '97. A Skybox Medal would have made a great rookie. Yeah, no, I love Skybox Medal and a lot of those '90s
I know you do.
cards. But well, listen, he's got a 95, I think, no, 96 or 95 select certified. That it's their first select certified card, so they put like rookie on it. I think it's 96 because they hadn't made one before that. It's not really his rookie, but I'm sure there's some people out there buying them off eBay, believing they're getting a Jeter rookie card.
If
So
if the pinnacle was in foil, it would be the SP.
yeah. Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know. The SP was like an ultra premium brand. It was like, again, he had the '93 finest from that year that kind of cracked through things. So you had the '93. Everyone that year wanted to go like super premium foil, right? You had
That's what I
Upper
said.
Deck do the SP. You
Correct.
had
If
Tops
Pinnacle
do
would
the
have
finest.
Pinnacle would have gone foil,
Yeah, and then
we
even
could be talking
Pacific,
about
there
that
was
ugly
football, but
Pinnacle
they
card.
did a Prism in '93. '93 was the year of glitz and foil and silver and shiny. Um, I like this card. This card's grown on me. I guess at the end of, kind of the come full circle. I like the card more now, and now I don't own any. That's the crazy thing. I like the card more now than I did years ago, and there's no less of them. Matter of
It's a
fact, there's
relatively
more.
affordable card to
Uh,
buy. Yeah.
there's probably more of them because as things get opened and cracked and get into circulation, it's just I don't dislike it. I don't know if that's the right word, but I don't have as much against it as you do.
Okay, I want
I
to move
did. I
on.
used to.
I want to
All
move
right.
on, but here's my final point. The fact that you don't own one proves my case.
Well, I don't own a lot of things that I would love to own.
No, but that's an affordable Hall of Fame rookie card, and I know you.
Yeah. No, listen, I don't love I'm not well, I said I wasn't really arguing that hard against the card. I just didn't put it on my list. All right, ready
All
for
right.
mine?
Yep.
All right, this is a big one. Let me before I show it. I always like to tease these things, so why stop? Why stop today? I don't own this card. I have owned it in the past in my show inventory. Sold it. I will say this. I'd like to get one again and keep it in. I like to get one of these and keep it in my PC and not put it on my show inventory side of my cards. But I don't. It's not cheap. But the problem with this card is it's all over the place. When you go to the national, it's like every showcase has at least one of these or 10 of these. Um, it's almost like to set up at the national, you have to own one of these cards and you'll be in the lottery. But I'm gonna put it on the screen now. I love this card. I want to own one. That's not it. You screwed up. Well, listen, I do own this card. And it made my list. It made both of our lists today. I was talking about. Let's go to this first, and then we'll go right to the Griffey since the cat's out of the bag. The MJ, 86,
Well,
87 Fleer,
we both agree on this
rookie.
card.
Yeah. I love this card. I've owned it, but then sold it. I want to own it again and not sell it. Um, but it's no shortage of these. During the pandemic crescendo, this thing, holy crap! I was shocked at what some of the higher grade versions of this was doing, and not just the as the higher grade versions brought crazy money. Some of the lesser versions also made the same sort of percentage trajectory. There's no shortage of these things. There's also no shortage of fake ones, so be careful. This is a card I actually wouldn't buy in raw condition. It makes that list, which may be another show, cards we would never buy raw. Um, but there's just so many of them. I think I like my iconic cards a little bit less prevalent. I think they're a little more money than they should be based on the population of Jordan rookies out there. When you think about this, those have went to the national. You want to play. I was going to say play a drinking game, but don't play this as a drinking game. You could get alcohol poisoning. But go walk all the tables, and every time you see a Jordan rookie, drink or keep a tally, and everyone, not just the table. So if you go to a table and that particular dealer has 15 cards, that counts as 15. See how many you count at the end of the day, or however long it takes you to see every table at the national. And that again, there's some being sold, right? So you may miss a few. That number is going to be larger than you probably think. Again, it's a great card. I want to, sound like a lawyer with the disclaimer. We're not saying these cards are not great cards, that we would not want to own them or do own them. We just showed a card that I do own that I picked for this list. So I'm non-biased, or at least attempting to be. So this just has to make the list. There's just to me, the price doesn't match the population report and that. I know, the Last Dance came out and that jumped them up even more. Then the Last Dance came out during COVID-19. So it was like the perfect storm for this thing to get out of control. It did. It has come down too. I don't want to make it like it's
big time.
but even in its coming down level, it's still pretty pricey. And even if I wanted to get a 4 or 5, it's going to cost a pretty good chunk of change. And I don't think it should be to the levels it is. But an iconic card, an iconic athlete, right? Michael Jordan is known. I don't care in the hobby, outside the hobby, and I think that probably feeds into it, obviously as well.
Well, Mookie agrees with us. He said, "When was the last time you saw an '86 MJ and said wow?" I bet you could say that
Well,
about all the cards.
the only disagreement there is the only time I say
Oh,
wow is
was the display with all of the tens?
yeah, that nines or tens will get a wow, especially on that year of cards and being
That was the
outside of the condition.
coolest.
Yeah, that will get a wow, but the card itself, I'm past the wow point. Like even if I own that again and get it, like I'd show it to my son. I'd say, Jordan, check this Jordan rookie out. But that would kind of be then it would just go wherever I put it, whether it be on my desk, in the display behind me, wherever it's placed goes, and that would be, I'd appreciate it. I'd look at it, but you know,
Meh.
it, a little bit of that. But listen, it's on my list to reacquire and keep this time. So, but it's just I don't know, it just has to be on this list in my mind.
Well, I definitely had it on my 5 actually also. And I saw when I was cheating that you had it on there, but I put it on the thumbnail for this episode. So you and I are very much
I
on the same page. Yeah.
I will say this, and you tell me if you agree with this. If there was a national poll and you could only vote, hey, what's in your opinion the most overrated card in the hobby? I think this would win that national poll where we only get one
Or
vote
I think we'd finish
each.
in the top 2.
I think it's number one.
We agree on one
So
more card. We agree on one more
all right,
card
yeah.
though.
Well, you can interchange them This is like
Yeah,
Alabama and Georgia in the college football rankings most years lately,
fair
right?
enough.
As far as rankings. Go ahead. We kind of showed it. You might as well put it back up. I think you picked this one too, right? So we can kind of both tackle
Well,
it.
here I just want to finish on the MJ real quick. Um, John mentioned the fakes. I think that has to add into the overratedness because I don't think that gets talked about enough. And on top of it,
Yeah.
it's not a real rookie.
Yeah,
Which
I disagree with you there.
what
It is a
was
real rookie to
what
me.
was his first year in the NBA?
I know it
No,
was a couple of year or two before
so
I get.
that to me takes away from some of the.
I kind of like the pack pulled aspect rather than a star team bag set. You know.
I'm not saying the star's the answer. I'm saying certain players don't have a true rookie year card, and it's not the same.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
I get it, but it's still the rookie. I mean, there are a lot of other players. It was because there weren't basketball cards really being produced by
I
the major.
know you don't need to apologize for the
Yeah,
NBA, but it just doesn't do it for me. I agree with you. Um, are you talking about the other one we agree with?
yeah. Let's get it out of the way. I'm not gonna like. No, the Griffey rookie.
Yeah, that's you. That's all you.
Okay, you didn't pick this one.
I held back. This made my honorable mention.
All right. Well, I'll guess I'll do my spiel and get me done with this one. I love this car. I buy it anytime I can where I get a deal on it. I have one that's behind me that I'm blocking. That's a 9. But this car, there's a million, there's a billion of these things. I've said why I loved it, right? Great close up shot. Young, you could tell how young he is. We didn't know then the kind of career he was going to have, and he, again, another guy that's kind of still. I just seen the new Geico commercial with him and the umpire. Right, he
Yep.
still talked about. He played in that big heavy steroid era, and you never really heard his name mentioned once. And apparently did it clean. And to look at his numbers and know that he did that in an era where it was rampant, but he did it clean. He's one of the greatest baseball players ever to put on a pair of cleats. But this card is just maybe the most massively overproduced awesome card on the planet. That's what I would call it, right? That people still love and want, and people own as many as they can. I know people that one guy showed me a box of cards, and he had 100 of these things in there. And he wasn't even selling them. He was like proud of them. I said, "What are you doing with your 100 Griffies?" Or it seems like he goes, "Yeah, there's 100 in there." I stopped when I got to 100. I'm not even selling them. I just like to. He goes, "I'm not a braggadocious guy, but I just wanted to show them off that I have 100 Griffey upper deck rookies." Right? I'm like, that's pretty cool. But again, that goes to show you. I don't know if you've been in the hobby more than 3 years. Someone's gonna hate me for this one. Uh, and you don't own a Griffey rookie yet. I don't.
Oh,
Where? What are you doing?
that's my point. That's my point. I agree with you.
Yeah,
All right, Mookie makes a good question here. All these cards you're showing are the upper echelon of most graded cards. Does most graded equal overrated? Is there a correlation or causation?
it's a great
I would
question.
I would say yes, but I think that's going to change a little bit as we move on. I think I've already ruined some of it, so let's go. Let's.
Let me answer that real quick too.
Yeah,
I do say it's a factor, and because there's so many graded, right, just goes into like how many are out there and produce. And just think, for everyone that's graded, there's probably at least one or two or more potentially that are in still raw form. So think of wrap your mind around that as well. You know,
it's less special.
yes.
Uh, Brennan says, "What do you think the population of 52 Manals to 89 upper deck Griffies are?" Well, I think that's where we're headed now. I've ruined this enough
Yeah.
times
Yeah.
that I'm just going to go ahead and finally let's just talk about it. 52 Manal. You go first because I've got some other charts I want to show.
Yeah, this made both of our lists. So this was a mutual pick card. It would be, going back to that statement I made earlier, where if everybody in the hobby had one vote to pick a card, this along with the Jordan rookie would probably be on most people's list. And consider. And listen, I don't own this card. I've never owned this card. Would I love to own this card? Yeah, so don't make putting these cards on this list are not us saying stay away or don't touch this or we don't want one. It's just saying, hey, they're a little maybe overhyped. Maybe overrated wasn't even the right term. Maybe overhyped. Uh, you know,
Overrated. Overrated's fine.
uh,
Thank you.
okay. So it's an
Overhyped
iconic
and
card. No,
overrated are similar. They're
yeah.
cousins.
And in some cities, that makes them really close relatives. So it's an iconic card. Listen, it's an
We're back to the
iconic
Alabama
card.
Georgia conversation again.
I'm not even saying that. I'm going to talk about this Mano card right now. So this, listen, it's an iconic card. They're still prevalent. I love the question. What was it that I don't know if it was Brendan about the Manos to the Griffies. I'll
Yeah.
answer that. I will say this: there's more wet Manos than wet Griffies. If you get it, you get it, right? So, um, that's all I gotta say about that. No, it's not. I still got more. Just when you thought it was over. It's an iconic card. Do you know another thing that bothers me about this card? And it's not the card's fault, but it still bothers me.
Well, I know one of the things that bothers you. What are you gonna say?
It bothers me, and again, it's not the card's fault. It's not Tops's fault, but it bothers me because there's a subset of people that think this is his rookie card, or have the perception
There's not a
that it's
subset.
his rookie.
There's a large majority of people who think this is his
Yeah,
rookie.
when it's the 51 Bowman, and that bothers me. And maybe that's a little bit of my
That's that's why
bias
I
toward.
don't overrated part. That's a large part.
Yeah. So that's part of my bias. So that's a reason. And again, that's not Tops or Mickey Mantle's or the cardboard it's printed on's fault. That's people not figuring it out or asking or doing research and whatnot. But because that's the perception and not the reality, it bothers me about the card.
And I think the 51 Bowman becomes underrated because of it. Um, and one of the things that I wanted to show, and I'm sure I'm getting blasted here real quick, is this is the 51 Bowman. And if you look at this, you can get this is a PSA 3 that can be had for 11,000 with a population of around 300. And then if you look at the the 52 tops, you're looking at PSA 3 of 50,000 with a population of around 200. So the to me that's the overhype is the built-in price there. The 51 Bowman, should be a lot closer in price in my opinion. And I know that doesn't define everything, but to me, the fact they're so far apart with similar pops in a PSA 3, um, just that to me, that's the hype.
Yeah, people are gonna think I'm nuts. If you took value aside, and I know that 52 tops is an attractive looking car. I rather still own the 51 Bowman Mantle rookie. So, for example, if I somehow I bought a collection, and there was a 52 tops Mantle in there, let's say ungraded, I'd get it graded, and then and if it did, depending on how it did, I would probably sell that card. No, not probably. I almost assuredly would sell that card, buy the 51 Bowman Mantle with the proceeds from the sale of the 52 tops, and then see how much money I still have left over. And if I really miss the 52 tops, buy maybe a lesser grade one and have them both. But I appreciate the 51 Bowman for obvious reasons over the 52 tops. And again, I'm not saying, like we talked about the Jeters being millions of them, the Griffeys, millions of them. I don't think there's millions of them. That's not the reason. It's just think the pricing again, especially when with the graphic you showed comparing the 51 Bowman to the 52 tops. I think it's a discrepancy, and I don't think there's a bunch. I don't think there's a bunch more 52 tops. I don't think there's a bunch less 52 tops. I don't think that's necessarily where that comes in. I just think, the 52 tops, the whole brand, the mystique, the stories behind it, how basically that set cut tops on its way for 70 years of baseball success. I think all those romantic stories have propped up that 52 set to the point where even the number one Andy Pafko is four figures in pretty decent shape. So
Yep.
I think the
Well, that's
set
because he was
itself
number
has
one, and
the rubber bands. I get
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Brennan says the average collector couldn't care less, but if the 52 mantle A is more rare, that's more desirable card, in my opinion. Talking about A versus B, and for people who really get into the nuances of the 52 tops.
Yeah. I've never owned the card A or B. If I did, I would just, it'd be cool to own the card. I wouldn't.
I'm looking into C.
Or how about 7, 8, 9?
Yeah, we'll
Those are
see.
the
We'll
colors.
see. We'll see where that goes.
Yeah. But to me, it has to make the list. Again, I wouldn't kick it out of bed. It's not a card I'm kicking out of bed. I would love to own it, but I'd rather have, the 51 Bowman first. And like I said, if somehow a 52 tops became part of my inventory, I'd be moving it to make 51 Bowman Mantle part of my inventory, and maybe a bunch of other stuff with the extra money I got from the sale of the 52 tops. So, that's just how I feel about it. I'm not as enamored with it as a lot of other people are.
We both agree, and this is the definition of a fantastic card that we're just saying is a little overrated or overhyped. Yeah, and not to take away, but I think what we're saying is it's more of, I think, the logo of Topps than it is a great card that I want over other cards. Is it my turn?
It is. Yep.
All right. Here's one, and I don't know how you're going to feel about this one. So this is an interesting one. I think that the 68 Nolan Ryan, Jerry Kuzman, brown, speckled, whatever you want to call that background, multiplayer rookie card is overrated. I think Nolan Ryan as a pitcher is not in the same league as some of the other pitchers that people collect in that price range. And I know that a lot of people who like his second year card more than his rookie card. I think it's an unattractive card. It's not, it's hard to get in a good grade, but it's not ridiculously hard to find. And I just think it's
Mookie wants to put you on a dartboard and shoot steel tips.
I know it was coming, but to me it would be one of the last Hall of Fame rookie cards I'd be chasing.
All right, so I will say this: it didn't make my list, so don't. Mookie now likes me better than you. I think I just moved up in the rankings. It did make my list, but I got to be. I'm an honest guy. I'm not going to start today not being honest. It did. It entered my mind. I just didn't put it on my list. And I know, and I've said this myself. I think Nolan Ryan sometimes gets compared to pitchers that had like better stuff and and better numbers, right? But when you throw 7 no hitters, that puts you in a space that that puts you in a neighborhood no one else lives either. And look how much of a big deal we make when someone throws 1 no hitter. And it is a big deal. It should be recognized and covered, right? But to throw 7 of them, um, I know he gets compared with Koufax, and that's the only time that one really bothers me a little bit because I just think Koufax was just a much better pitcher who also had what 4 no hitters in his own right. But I think Nolan Ryan's 7 no hitters kind of are a little bit of the difference maker with some other pitchers as well. While
And if,
I
and
might
if, and if,
think
and if Koufax would have pitched 15 more years,
no, I listen. Koufax is number one in my book, and Bob Gibson's probably number two for we're ranking best pitchers of all time. And that's just off the top of my head. I haven't really,
post-war, post-war,
you know,
post-war.
yeah, post war. That's. Thank you. Those are my 1 and 2. Um, Ryan is probably in my top 10, probably on the edge of that 5. People are gonna think I'm nuts, but
People are
you
going to think I'm
know,
not. I think Carlton's that is borderline top 5.
Carnes very. I think Carnes one of those guys who probably doesn't get
So is
enough
Seaver.
credit. We did underrated card. That card, like $250, if that. It's way too cheap for the number. So I did make my list. It entered my mind. I just never put pen to paper.
Nolan Ryan was partially unhittable because he walked many in the 70s.
Yeah, he just man, when he was on, he could throw a no hitter that night, right? And then there was other times he was just okay, right?
But
Um,
what do you think of the card?
If you told me you didn't like this, well, listen, the aesthetics aren't the greatest. I give you that much, right? The 68's not my favorite looking set. I'm not a big fan of dual rookie cards, but they are what they are. You can't control that. Only the card company.
Orlando, I was flipping a coin between the two. I swear to you, it was down to the bench and the Ryan on my last one. I couldn't agree more. Thank you. Sorry.
So, listen, I get it, but it didn't make my list. I'm again, I think Ryan. Here's the crazy thing with Nolan Ryan. I think in some cases he's overrated as a pitcher, and in other cases I think he's underrated. That he's not. How you say? How about John? Make up your mind. How can you be overrated and underrated? He's one of those guys. It depends who you talk to and how he's viewed, right? I think some people give him way too much credit, and then I've heard other people say, "Oh, he was just an average pitcher who threw 7 no hitters," and I don't agree with that either. It's somewhere in between that.
All
So,
right. I'm gonna keep this plane. We're gonna make up time in the air here. Where are you going next? Because I'm totally I
all
have
right,
no.
let's go. I'll go. Let's go to a different sport because we just said cars. We didn't say these had to be baseball. So
Well, then
let's
I'm
let
gonna interrupt you because we have some friends that want to say hi.
yes, go ahead.
Experience, quality, consistency, and the quickest turnaround times in the grading industry? We are proud to partner with SGC Grading. Check them out at www.gosgc.com.
And if well, let me before I get into that, let me put up my next pick, Danny.
Okay.
It, and we see multiples. We like to kind of loophole our own rules, right? So I'm gonna pick, in a sense, a set that has a couple iconic rookies. We talked about Eric Dickerson earlier as well, so it's funny he
Poor,
makes
poor, poor
an
Eric
appearance.
Dickerson.
I know,
You're being a real
he's
Dickerson. You're being a real Dickerson to him tonight.
yeah. We listen, one of the best running backs of all time. Like he can play. All right. The 84 tops football set, and specifically, the Marino and Elway rookies. Um, Marino and Elway both arguably some of the best the best QBs in the history of football. I don't think they are the greatest. But they're in the mix, right? And it's just, again, for some of the reasons we stated for some of these other cards. And this is on Tops. That was some poor quality control with the 84 Tops football release. I mean, most of these cards are severely off center. Like there's off center, and there's like everyone forgot their glasses that day they printed the Tops out,
Yeah, quality
84
control is not a
football.
new problem.
Yeah. And so many of these are off center. It's sad because they're two great players in Marino and Elway's case. Dickerson's rookie year, Ronnie Lott, I believe's rookie year, Howie Long's rookie year. Also, I don't want to miss anybody, but there's some key rookies in the set, but they're just so poor quality control. And so it's not much me picking on the cards as I'm picking on Tops here for really dropping the ball with this release. And it's overrated. What's not overrated is when you find those cards we just talked about in really good condition and gradable. Actually, the picture I stole here, I'm glad I used this one because typically they do not look like this when you see them, and they're usually terrible, and that's why high graded copies will bring a good chunk of change. So it's just that they're kind of overrated. You see so many off center ones. It's ad nauseum. And so I had to make, and this is more me, a little shot in the ribs to Tops for producing those and make for them to make this list because of that. So it's not Dan Marino or John Elway or Eric Dickerson's fault. But I'm not going to make your point. You said something to me before we recorded, so I'll let you kind of take the baton and run with it.
Well, no, I mean, I'm going to come across as biased again. I don't believe any of those guys you simply look at and call the greatest ever at their position. I think a Jerry Rice rookie card. You say it's the best wide receiver of all time. Now, the last time I said that, somebody came back at me with Randy Moss, but my point is Eric Dickerson's not the best running back. Marino's not the best quarterback. Um, Howie Long's not the best defensive lineman. So the set just kind of is what it is. To me, it's the 84 Tops of baseball. Just some names, not. Well, in baseball, they're not Hall of Famers, but just a little bit underwhelming. But John, I think we have some actual breaking news here. I think we have a Taco Fractor winner. Ketel Marte of the Diamondbacks, if I'm correct, and if somebody in the comments could double check, I believe is the winner of the Taco Fractor. So we need a noise. We need to get one of those noise things, for like a winner. That's big news for somebody. Somebody just won $15,000 worth of Taco Bell. How do you feel about that?
That was my bill last week. No, it was I'm kidding. It was for the month, not 1 week.
For the plumber.
Listen, I'm one of those weird guys that I don't love Taco Bell, but I like Taco Bell. Like where other people are like, oh man, I won't step foot in that place. Like I get it. It's not real Mexican food, right? You're not not getting on that soapbox. But I like Taco Bell. So congratulations to that guy. So what did they get? $15,000 worth of
basically in a gift card.
So as they shop at Taco Bell, that number just comes off. It's like
you just keep using your money.
What I want to know is if you don't use that for like 6 months, does it automatically decrease like most gift cards do?
I have so many questions, but I didn't win the Taco Fractor, so congratulations. This is a big day in somebody's life. You have birth, marriage, graduations, celebrations, promotions, and Taco Fractors. So congratulations.
Well, that's a lot of trips to the bathroom. Forget the money, right? Just think of that poor toilet and the plunger and everything else. All right,
T-
that's the visual no one
I was about
no
to say,
one needs,
TJ said
right?
I could eat Taco Bell all the time as a teenager, not so much after I turned 30. Forget about it at near 50. Yep.
Well, I am 50. Listen, I eat Taco Bell probably in reality once a month. Like Tuesday. I'll a little personal inflection here. Tuesday at my house is no one cooks, and you're on your own. Eat leftovers, make cereal, whatever. It's like no one's cooking. Everyone's day off because we all take turns cooking here. So Tuesday's the no one's cooking. That's the day I traditionally when I have Taco Bell, it's that, and it's about a once a month average. So I like it. I don't love it. I'm not gonna lie and say I never eat there. At five winners. Orlando
Or a
said.
final five. I'm
So
not sure. I'm not sure of the exact rules here. I apologize, but we have the stolen base. So,
yeah, there
all
you
right,
go. And
all right. Now, talking about Marino's legacy, um, and
he
talking
made the
about
Super Bowl
Dan
in his
Marino,
rookie year. How crazy is that? He made it as a rookie starting quarterback. They lost to the Joe Montana 49ers. And I remember I was 12 years old in 1984. I watched the game. And matter of fact, that was the year I had moved to Fort Lauderdale for a couple years. I was actually in Fort Lauderdale in 1984, and I wasn't a Dolphins fan, but it was big news in South Florida. And if you would have told me then, that Dan Marino would never get back to the Super Bowl after that, I would have thought you were nuts. But that's exactly what happened. We can do the
Dan
whole
Marino would have thought you were nuts, also.
yeah and the Dolphins, right? And he's always in that conversation, right? Best quarterback never to win a Super Bowl ring. That may be where he is the best quarterback in that category. I don't think he's the best quarterback ever. He might be the best quarterback ever, never win a ring. But you can't argue with he's one of the best quarterbacks ever. He's in that conversation. I don't think he is that. Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Montana, right?
I'm
Somebody
United.
argued, yeah, or Elway even, who we already talked about. Um, I think the lack of rings unfairly hurt sort of Marino's legacy. I think that was a question. If he would have got even one ring, I think we would look about him. Sometimes you mention Dan Marino to somebody, and you know what they might think first?
Ace Ventura.
That or isotoner gloves,
We got
right?
both. We got both comments. I've been trying to keep up with it.
Yeah, isotoner gloves, and that's too bad because he was for those that think of those two things. I get it. I'm not picking on him, but that's sad because it could have been much more than that. And you know, uh, he's in the top five quarterbacks of all time. I think for me, if I really sat down and made that list, I think he gets in the top five. So, um, but it's sad, he got there his rookie year and never made it back again.
All right, I think I'm on my last one now. I think we evened this out. It actually evened out. All right, because you got one more after this.
All right.
All right, I think this card. I get it. Error cards. People like error cards. Um, there's certain times in history, um, but there's certain cards that just because it's an error, I don't like the card, and this is one of them.
Oh
The
man, Nielsen, you want me? I'm just going to. Are you
Go for it.
talking specifically the no name version?
Specifically the no name version.
Yeah, I gotta disagree, man. That's just not a comment. It's a super. It's a super. Now
Bring it.
listen, it was. I get it. If you're gonna make the argument, well, it's because a printer ran out of ink. I
Overrated
I
but
know what.
seldom seen. Yes, that's a great way to say it.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say this is overrated, man. For the same reason I said, man, you go to a
Is-
show, go to the
Wait, is
National,
it good? Is
count
it
how
good
many
looking?
Griffey rookies and Jordan rookies you count, right? I don't remember seeing this card at the National. I'm not saying no one had one. I don't remember.
Overrated
Like,
print error. Yep, Orlando's
yeah,
very very intelligent.
listen. I don't know all the technicalities, but basically, a printer ran out of ink, and some of these sheets didn't get the black. I think it was black ink that printed the names, if my memory serves me correct, and that's why you have these. There's just not a ton of them, and I can't call this card overrated. I can count probably on both my hands in 40 years how many of these I've seen in person. And so I can't put this on my overrated list. So this one we get off at different exits, as I like to say.
That's fine, and you can pay for that printer's error, and you're paying tens of thousands of
Well, I won't
dollars
buy I'm not
for a
buying the card. I'm
1990 Topps Frank Thomas. It's an ugly card.
I'm not arguing the aesthetics of the card. I'm just saying it's not overrated.
Yeah, I think the fact that it's just a printer running out of ink. It doesn't. I can't
Well,
justify or see
listen,
that value.
we can make the argument on the card you like to talk about, the '89 Flair Billy Ripken that was
But
supposedly all
where does
set
that
up and
price?
intentional.
But the prices
I know.
are
All right, yeah, you got me on that argument on that point, but this is not to me. This is not an overrated card. I don't think it's a you know. I guess it's a great card in terms of there's just not a ton of them, and he's a Hall of Fame player. Went on to become a Hall of Fame player. You know what I mean? If this was like Andy Van Slyke, it's a different
tremendous player,
card.
by the way. Tremendous player.
Yeah. So I don't think this is. I don't think this is overrated. I can make a point it's underrated. I don't even know what these things go for anymore because
Can we
I
just
don't
say it's
own one.
rated? Maybe it's just rated.
Yeah, I've never. This is one card I've never owned. And I'll even say this: it's not that I wouldn't want to own one. But I just don't have It's not a card that's on my eBay searches, and I look to own. I know about it. I've never had one. I know I can count on two hands how many I've seen in my entire life. Um, I just, uh, I just, I don't think it's an overrated card. Well, I don't even know are they still even four figures? Have there been any? I'm assuming they still are.
It's just
So
crazy to even say that. I mean, but
yeah,
that's why it's on my list, John.
all right. Yeah, it didn't never even. So didn't even wasn't even in consideration, but
Well,
that's why
evidently,
there are less,
evidently you
right?
love her. Evidently, it's your favorite card.
All right, one more, right? I think it's I kind of the last pick here. There it is. I own this card. It's behind me in this case back here, on the wall, display on the wall. It's Mike Trout's 2011 update rookie card. Um, but I just think this card it's come down in price, but at one point this thing was bringing way too much money. Again, no shortage of them. It's not a bad looking card. Someone say, well, what the argument we make for update and traded rookie cards, right? Well, don't come out of pack. Well, this one does come out of pack, so you can't make that argument. But Trout's probably gonna be a Hall of Famer. But recently, some of the injuries of the past, 3, 4, 5 years have sort of taken off the bloom off this rose, if you will, on this card. But yet, I think some people still view it as this. I hate to use the term grail, but and it's a card. Listen, I own it. It doesn't make my one copy doesn't get into my showcases for sale. Um, but it's not a short printed card. Again, it's another card like the Jordan rookie, heavily faked to the point. This is we need to do a show cards I would not buy raw because this would make. I did a hobby quick hits of that. but we haven't done a
Well,
live
thanks
video.
for telling me about the time you did it on the show without me. That's a
Without
great
you.
that's a great story. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Jobu do himself, or in this
Right,
case,
I'm sure.
Janu do himself. But so I own this card. Someone brought a box up of with some of these in there. I might inquire to what they were looking to get for it. I just don't think it gets way too much hype for what the card should. And so that I guess that's what I'm basing what makes it overrated. And so this card gets a lot more attention, especially nowadays or in recent years, than it probably realistically should. He's got a 2012 Prism that some people will argue is also a rookie, or put that in listings. Um, it's a nice looking card, but you know, going back to the tops, I don't know where I was going with the Prism, so we'll go back to the tops. Um, it's a great card, but it's definitely overrated. It's definitely overrated.
Well, I agree with you on that. I'm not going to pick a fight just because you were wrong on the Frank Thomas. But I do
Holy
want to
crap! Look at that. That's the comment. If that's man, almost 9 grand, basically nine
for a
grand,
5.5,
for-
John, a five and a
and
half. You're
a
going to tell
five
me
and a
that's
half in a Beckett slab.
and that's not
Listen,
overrated? That's not overrated?
man. Well, that price is overrated. I
Well,
think
well,
that's not the card's fault.
but that's the
Although I
price.
have,
Yeah, it
yeah,
kind of is.
that seems a little excessive. Yeah,
And
at least in that case. That
here's
guy
the
who paid
understatement.
that, hopefully he's not watching or listening, but the guy that bought a 5.5 Beckett graded no name Frank for almost 9 grand, I want to talk to that guy.
It's
I
unbelievable.
kind of know what he'll say, but I still want to talk to
This might be the understatement of the century. Can buy better cards for that money. Yes. And in
him.
fact,
Yeah.
of all the cards we've talked about tonight, I would still buy most of them over that Frank Thomas era card for that money. So
Yeah, that's the point. Like, we're not saying these aren't cards that suck. That's not the title of the show. We're just saying they're overrated. Like I said, I own some of these that I put on the list. I'm not being a hypocrite about it, right? I joke that there's 100,000 MJ rookies at the National. I have 0 of them, and I'd like to have one, but I don't have one yet. So it is what it is. And the Trout rookie, like, I see the comment that the finest is underrated. Yeah, I wouldn't argue from Al there, Iconic Baseball. So I don't argue that. The finest is probably aesthetically even a better looking card than that Topps update. But that Topps update so early when he was dominating the Major League Baseball, that card became like, I don't even know how to explain it. It became like a story in itself. Like, the card became bigger than itself. Like, oh, a Trout update rookie, right? That's all. Yeah,
for
it was
sure.
3 words, right? Trout update rookie became like lexicon, and now it's, to me, it shouldn't be, right? I think we fell in love with the great years he was putting together, and and then the card, and the fact that when you could have pulled that card in 2011, we didn't have the scouting and all that stuff we have now, where you hear about guys, 10 years before they crack a big league field, and he came on and played pretty solid right off the jump, and everyone assumed the Angels would make further moves. This team would be on an upward trajectory. That didn't happen, and they became, if you want to say, injury prone, and they've had some bad GMs and bad drafts, and postseason has been non-existent for the team and for one of baseball's best players, and I think it's really hurt the card. And it's, in the sense that all that stuff combined with how many exist, it's just made it an overrated card, and why it made my list. And I
Well,
own it multiple times. And so
I rarely agree with you this much, but I do. Um, Agree on the Topps heritage. Talking about the Trout.
And these are great points because I want to when this Trout update rookie really crescendoed, and it was pretty quickly. It shot through the ceiling rather quickly. I remember saying, like, man, it's not even his best looking rookie card. This was at that time. Um, I'm like, man, there's like the heritage, the finest. There's so many other cards that just aesthetically look better, and I don't even think there's more of those other ones. You know what I mean? It's not like the update is short printed and the finest is DP. You know what I mean? Double printed. I don't think the production runs are that much different. It just that became like the poster card for Trout rookies, the update, right? It was when a lot of these rookies from updates that's were really starting to do some big things on the field, and then it became like the update rookie was like the in card, and Trout benefited from that. When a lot of other people in the chat room are saying he has better looking rookie cards. It's not even his best looking rookie card,
Nope.
guys. And I agree. I agree. But everyone anointed this card the card, right? Everyone, when it comes to rookie cards, is always the card, right? We can, when there's multiple rookie cards at play. Obviously, we get to the vintage era, and usually you got only one. That's why I love one of the reasons I love vintage, right? We most guys have one rookie card that you have to target and acquire, right?
I,
You get
I'm doing a player run, and outside of a 63 Fleer, I'm only dealing with one Topps card a year for
yeah,
the base run.
now you like a guy, you got 800 different rookie card choices, So,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
so the Trout was one of the first ones for me, and again, I own the card, and I have one in my PC, so it's not like I'm picking on a card that I don't own. I own the card itself, so it just it's just too hyped up when you look at the bit. When you take a step back and get out of that hyper magnification mode, it's not that great of a card. It's a good card. It's a very good card, especially when he's playing well. But it's just a little too talked about for my personal taste.
All right, John. Tray tables in their upright position. Prepare for landing. We're in overtime.
All right, yeah, that's about right. I think what helped us, we had some similar cards, so we didn't actually have 10 completely different cards, although we talked about 10
Well,
different
I
cards.
will say that our honorable mentions, I think, would have fit right in also.
Yeah, well, a couple of the ones you made your list would probably been honorable mentions for me. They just didn't crack the top five.
Well, like
I thought
The
about
Rose rookie was definitely. Yep.
yeah. See, Rose Rookie never came into play for me. I didn't make my consideration list. The Ryan did, the Jeter did, but they just didn't make the final, the final cut. So
Mike Petty, you got to remember to say war. Huh. What is it good for? That's the key there is huh. All right. I want to say thank you, TJ. Appreciate that.
listen, and again, these are just opinions, right? Everyone has them. Opinions can't be right or wrong. You may not agree with them. Facts can be right or wrong. This is something I try to teach my kids in school, right? You can say something's a fact and it's not true, and then you're wrong. But if you say my opinion is this, well, we may not agree with it, or it might be extreme, and technically isn't necessarily wrong. So when we anytime any content creator does these lists, there's going to be someone that says, man, you guys are nuts, right? And you would be right, and it might not have anything to do with the list you heard today. So but that's the fun with these kind of shows and these kind of lists is some people will agree, or some people say, hey, how'd you forget this, or how did this not make your guys' list. And we've had a couple shows where someone in the chat room brought something up that we missed, and I'm like, I missed that one, and it should be on my list. And so that's even the fun in itself too, right?
I was about to say, I every time we finish one of these shows, I immediately want to redo my list and re-record. But
Yeah.
I feel pretty good. I don't need everybody to agree with me. I don't need that much validation in my life. I feel strong on my list. I'm gonna stick with my Jeter and my Ryan and my Frank Thomas and I'm good. I'm good.
I'll just say this.
It was a great time.
The only one I would argue a lot about would be the Frank Thomas. I just think
You go ahead and spend that 10 grand on that BGS 5.5.
well, I'm not buying one. I can disagree with you and not buy the card to prove a point. I'm not that kind of a smug, as they say.
Yeah.
Like, look at this rare card I just got.
I'm just saying. Anyway, well, it was good. What are we back in 2 weeks?
Every other Friday. So yeah, we'll be back in 2 weeks. I don't know what the topic will be. And that's the other thing, man. We as you can see, we'll try to be interactive and talk about what you're typing in chat or what you're saying and agree or disagree. Hey, give us some topics you want us to tackle. As long as we know at least a little bit about them, we can do a show. So, um, even at every other week, sometimes we have trouble like coming up with topics at moments. So, we definitely open to shows you guys out there want to hear or see, and that sort of thing. That's a reminder. Thank you to everyone watching us live on the opening night of World Series 2023. So we
And
appreciate you that.
and I
Even if
promised
you're
an update before we leave. Wait,
yeah,
I
give an
promised an
update.
update. 5-3 Arizona in the 6th. So you got plenty of time
Right,
to
there
go
you go.
watch baseball.
Yeah. And if you're not listening to us because of the World Series, but you've downloaded this in podcast form, we appreciate you one and the same as well because you didn't have to do that either. So either way, live, which we definitely appreciate because we don't like just talking to ourselves. Although I do that when the camera's not rolling, but you don't know that. And you took time to watch us and interact. And I know I speak for Danny in saying. Thank you for that. We sincerely appreciate that.
Yeah, I've said it before. This is this is one of my favorite things I do in the hobby. I just topic hobby drama, no names, LOL. Mentions are better than the World Series.
That we'll have to use that in like some promo mentions.
Right,
Like
exactly.
you know
Mentions are
how
better
like
than the World Series.
movies will quote like movie critics
Right.
like I was at the edge of my seat. 2 thumbs up. We're gonna have to do one of those and use that Mike Petty quote. Better than the World Series, Mike Petty.
Yeah. All right. Say goodbye, John.
Goodbye, John.